everybody, and welcome back to the Blossom Review. How are you? Today we're talking about TV Asahi's Reborn, a Japanese drama that came to a close last month and that you can find on Netflix. If you haven't watched the show yet, don't worry about it. This review is spoiler-free. So Reborn is the story of Neo Kosei, played by Takahashi Issey, the brilliant CEO of Neosys, an IT company that beat the odds to become one of the biggest names in the industry. To the public, Kosei is a charismatic and hard-working leader who has built his ever-growing empire guided by the motto, for the people. On TV, he's shown smiling widely as he signs the seemingly successful purchase of a bank. On magazine covers, he is painted as this generous and righteous businessman. However, at home, we observe as Kosei eats on his own, lonely and miserable. At work, he's ruthless when making business decisions, obnoxious to the colleagues who have worked with him for decades, and paranoid when receiving presents from the company's partners and collaborators. Then, who is the real Kosei? Reborn will have Kosei devise his own answer to this question throughout its 9 episodes. To set him off on this journey of self-discovery, the series' first installment inevitably bombards us with information. We are quickly dragged through the years as we witness Kosei gradually lose his identity while trying to build the Neosys he dreams of. The more Neosys grows, the less humane Kosei becomes. Finally, in 2022, Neosys decides to buy land in Arakawa Ward, which includes tearing down the ramshackle Akari shopping street. But evicting the people who live and work there proves to be quite a challenge, and Kosei spends the next 4 years making use of every single merciless tactic in the capitalist playbook to drive the stubborn Akari community to a corner. Tragedy ensues, but Kosei couldn't care less. His heartlessness has pushed people away, his values have become null and void, but his business is thriving, and that's all that matters. Things change when one morning Kosei is pushed down a staircase and dies from the fall. When he wakes up, he finds himself back in 2012, somehow reincarnated in the body of a certain Nomoto Eito, a young man who bears a striking and almost unbelievable resemblance to his Kosei self. It turns out that Eito is the son of Nomoto Eiji, played by Kohinata Fumio, the chairman of the very Akari shopping street he destroyed in his past life. So Kosei goes from oppressor to oppressed overnight, and as Eito, he is now stuck with a loving but financially inept community whose future is nothing but bleak. And that's where the trick lies. Kosei is armed with knowledge of what is yet to come, which he will begrudgingly use to help Eito's shopping street thrive and hopefully find out the identity of his killer. As one would expect, Reborn has its protagonist learn the meaning of trust and empathy and community through his relationship with the caring neighborhood that surrounds him. Whether that protagonist is Neo Kosei or Nomoto Eito matters little to this narrative, because the point here is the development of a third and independent persona born out of the nurturing environment and the quirky circumstances set by this script. In one way or another, Eito's and Kosei's lives have always been intertwined, which justifies this strange reincarnation, but also allows both men to exist simultaneously throughout the series. Reborn wants to create a comparison between the two, to prove that the molding of one's identity isn't a matter of either nature or nurture, but a matter of both nature and nurture. Kosei has always been an intelligent and determined and compassionate individual, but his life at Neoshis stifled his empathy, turned his intelligence into arrogance, and used his determination to fuel his avarice. His desires then became ever more toxic, ever more self-centered, and he lost sight of what he truly needed. As Eito, however, Kosei is given something bigger than himself to care about. He embraces the joy of giving and receiving love, shedding his pride and twisted ambition to slowly regain his humanity. The residents of the Akari shopping street foster Kosei's qualities and reinforce his principles, allowing him to realize that he's only honestly happy when he can help those around him. He's only fully himself when he forgives, understands, and supports others. Reborn is at its best when exploring the internal conflicts that guide Kosei towards his most authentic self. A journey that constantly forces him to choose between cynicism and faith, egoism and altruism, individualism and collectivism. And who better than Takahashi Issey to deliver such a character? The show lives and dies by its protagonist, and Kosei is only able to shoulder the weight of this narrative thanks to Takahashi's irresistible charisma and subtle performance. But Reborn becomes so enthralled by the exploration of its themes through Kosei's development arc that it forgoes pretty much everything else. Supporting roles are given shallow characterization. The people from the Akari shopping street are your standard and often saccharine found family, individuals with little personality and even less agency to speak of. Their let's drink and forget about it approach to most of the challenges they face turns them into lazy devices that only exist to exalt Kosei as a hero. Even more maddening is the fact that they keep making the same mistakes over and over and over again, which means that Kosei is the only character in the series that actually shows some growth. Reborn doesn't count on a proper antagonist, which is not a problem per se, but the question here is that we are given morally gray, antagonistic characters that don't really have a clear purpose either. Without a solid cast of supporting characters helping the protagonist drive this narrative forward, the plot ends up contrived and adrift for most of the series' run. Since narrative logic isn't established with confidence, why or how things happen are matters often ignored. The flimsy mechanics behind Reborn become even more evident due to an awfully verbose script. On-the-nose dialogue and constant expository voiceover narration explain every single action and every single emotion. There is no subtext, no connotation to be inferred here. Things are exactly how Kosei narrates them to be, or how the characters meticulously explain to one another, which makes the loose ends and the questionable ending stand out even more. Flawed, wacky and lively, Reborn has a good heart and a promising premise that ends up crudely executed. It relies on a series of commonplace devices to deliver a story that we've all seen before. After all, isn't Kosei just a modern Ebenezer Scrooge, a bitter and selfish man who discovers the joys of generosity and benevolence? Reborn might not be remarkable or original in any way, but if you offer it a touch of patience, it might just warm your soul. Just don't expect a tight and complex narrative and be ready to take things at face value. So if you are a Takahashi Issey fan, make sure to give Reborn a shot and then come back and let me know in the comments what you thought of the series. Remember that Reborn is available on Netflix. Quick reminder that this review is also available on the Blossom Review, and over on Substack this week we reviewed an upcoming Korean thriller novel called Plant Lady. I'll leave all the links in the description if you guys would like to give them a read. Guys, thank you so very much for being here. I really hope that you like this video and you subscribe so I can see you here every week for a new review. Take very good care of yourself and I'll see you very, very soon. Big kiss!